What's up, buds? I'm the real Gary V. Today we are going over part 2 of the Orc War Clans book with the Ironjawz. To start things off, let me tell you how the Ironjawz differ from normal orcs and how they came to be. Also, before we begin today, if you could please like and subscribe, this helps me out so much with the algorithm and helps my channel grow. And to everyone who's already subscribed, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Ironjawz are the biggest and strongest orcs in all of the mortal realms. They get this way from years of consistently fighting, which is not hard to do when you're an orc. Normal orcs eventually get big enough to leave their clans and join the ranks of the Ironjawz as their baseline troops, the Ardboys. In fantasy, these would be the Black Orcs, the former biggest and baddest in the fantasy setting. However, in AOS, these are just the run-of-the-mill baseline infantry for the Ironjawz. From here, the Ironjawz will continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, to where many of them might even end up being the size of 40k orcs before all is said and done. Once upon a time, in the Age of Chaos, Sigmar went to get a pack of smokes in the Realm of Heavens and locked the door behind him. This gave Archaon free reign of the mortal realms. Well, kinda. While he certainly did well in certain areas and pushed certain factions to the limits or just flat out wiped them out, other factions were the ones giving Archaon the headache, such as in the realms of Shyish and Ulgu, where he made little to no progress even when he won. Another one of these massive headaches were the orcs. With all this fighting going on, it got all the orcs riled up, and they joined in. They would fight, some would die, others would grow. Out of the dead orcs and the dandruff of the still living orcs, more orcs would grow. No matter how much Archaon and the forces of chaos threw at the orcs, they could not actually win. And there was so much fighting going on that the orcs just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There are large groups of orcs that would be considered bosses in years past being formed into units and sent to the front. And now there's actually bosses walking around that are the size of their 40k orc variants, which was never really a thing in fantasy. And now you have the Ironjawz, an elite orc army that very much follows Gork's side of Gorkamorka to the extreme. Brutal, but cunning. And now some fun facts about the Ironjawz. While they are bigger and tougher than all other orcs, they are certainly not the brightest. Most of the army cannot count higher than 5 or 10, and they rely heavily on their fingers for assistance in counting. If an Ironjawz loses any digits, this can permanently affect their ability to count. Some of the best and brightest of the Iron Boys have figured out to count all the way to 20. They do this by removing their boots and counting with their toes. Even though they are not the smartest, they are not always brutal savages. They can be talked to and be reasoned with to some extent. This could be for a temporary alliance or convincing them that there's a better fight elsewhere. This is best shown in the Hamilcar Bear Eater episode of Hammer and Bolter. In this episode, he is able to fully converse with a couple of brutes guarding the gate, and work out a deal with the boss. He does end up fooling the boss and the entire army into killing each other, but nevertheless, the ability for diplomacy is there. The vast majority of Ironjawz wear armor, and lots of it. Plus, they're all armed with a bunch of big old weapons that you and I would struggle to wield. Fret not, you probably don't want to touch any of their shit. Literally. They forge the vast majority of their weapons and armor from a metal known as pig iron, which is a combination of metals formed in their giant pigs known as gorgrakks after they're fed bodies of dead warriors. As all pigs do, they eat everything that is placed in front of them. This includes the weapons and armor. While the bones and flesh dispense, all the metals stay intact and are being molded together inside the gut. The Ironjawz then take the poo metal and form it into their new shit. Pun intended there, and also side note, I would never want to face an Ironjawz army in the field, just kind of like the Nurgle army. Like, you're not going to come up with a better outfit with all that poo armor cutting and yeah. The Ironjawz use a variety of animals and non-poo armor uses, such as war. These animals are maw crushers, giant cabbage dragons who need an extremely tough boss to tame, gorgrakks, larger than average boars that function as super heavy cavalry. The final beasts are even bigger pigs called maw-gruntas, which act very similar to the way war elephants functioned back in the day. If you ever see one of these on the tabletop or in a picture, you have to say, "Big pig, big pig!" Them's the rules, and you do it from now on, you filthy gits. While the Ironjawz warbands all function individually, there is one orc that they all look up to and wish to either become or join one day. This is Gordrakk, the Fist of Gork. He's a big player in the setting and has been since pretty much the very start of AOS. Plus, he's also still a huge headache for everyone currently. He rides around on his dragon cabbage Big Teeth, who is the biggest and baddest of all dragon cabbages. Gordrakk is a great warrior and is beyond intimidating, which is 2 key qualities you need as an orc boss. I just remembered the story after I've already gotten the script written and I'm recording now, but during the Siege of Excelsis, Gordrakk got flung off of Big Teeth, and Big Teeth was going to take a bite out of him, eat him, all that lovely stuff, and all Gordrakk had to do was get up and look him, like stare him down, and Big Teeth stopped dead in his tracks and went back to being the good little boy that he is. The key lesson here is don't mess with Gordy. The scariest thing, though, about Gordrakk is he has a fully functional brain, and on several occasions he has displayed critical thinking that puts many people to shame. Gordrakk's ultimate goal is to one day get into his ear and beat the shit out of Sigmar. To do this, he has done such big brain moves that include allying with multiple would-be enemies in his battles instead of fighting and killing them, meeting up with allies and sending them out on false flag operations that would draw soldiers and resources away from the actual target that he's gonna hit. And while not official, he has a working coalition of races fighting for him that include Ironjawz, Cruel Boys, Goblins, Ogres, Giants, and at certain points, the god of earthquakes, Kragnos. While there still is a lot of infighting, this is a working coalition of everything in destruction. That's something Order, Chaos, and Death all still struggle with, is getting everyone to work together without any major disagreements that completely shatter the Alliance. Out of the three big orcs from AOS, Fantasy, and 40k, I would actually consider Gordrakk to be my favorite. Even if he's not the center of attention in each edition, he's always up to something and is often always behind any destruction shenanigans happening in major storylines. Plus, Gazgul and Grimgor both lack giant cabbage dragons, which is a major loss for them. I also might be biased because I'm Canadian, and Gordrakk is part of the Gord and Gordy family, and as a Canadian, we have a long line of great Gords, Gordies, and Gordrakks now, so honorary Canadian. So this video is quickly becoming a Gordrakk Glaze Fest, so we're going to move on. I'm probably going to do a video in the future going into more detail on why I think he's the best. That's totally not going to get any hate, right guys? There are three major clans in the Orc War Clans Battle Tome. The Iron Sons. These are the biggest and well-known war clan. They make up a large part of Gordrakk's Big Wah, and they're more cunning than your average Ironjawz boy. They do, however, have a separate leader called Dakbad Grotkicka, who is not a huge fan of Gordrakk himself. He does, however, want to replace him as the Fist of Gork and lead his Big Wah. He, however, is smart enough to know not to fuck with Gordy. It's not going to end well for him. The Bloodtooths are the speed freaks with decked-out armored pigs. Because, you know, the red ones go faster. They enjoy employing large amounts of Gorgruntas, and I'm also sure they have the largest armor and weapons production of all the clans due to those Gorgruntas. Nothing official on that, that's just my headcanon, but I'm putting two and two together. The Choppas are something unique for orcs. They still love fighting and killing, but they're also not destructive as other orcs. After sieges and battles, they prefer to leave everything intact and then graffiti it and put their logos everywhere. Their greatest achievement was raiding Archeon's home and knocking the head off and replacing it with a Grot's head, which is just funny. They are vandalizing artistic orcs, which is just flat out hilarious. Ironjawz armies rely mostly on glorious melee combat, the most honorable form of combat there is. Ranged combat on the army is exclusively made up of spells, puke, and cabbage dragon breath. You can also run allies or Big Wah, but that's not like a full Ironjawz army, so it doesn't count. You have solid options for hammer and anvil units in the army, as well as a variety of characters that fill the beatstick, support, and speedy roles. Your army is also very durable. Everything in the army has 2 or more wounds, and most things in the army have a 3 or 4 up save, with the exception of a couple little things. This does come at the drawback that they are a very pricey army to field points-wise on the tabletop. They are an elite army, and you're going to have to pay for it. Also, everything in the army that is not mounted is as fast as a dwarf, so you won't be getting anywhere too fast. Gordrakk, the Fist of Gork. The War Master option for your army, so if he's in your army, he's in charge, no ifs, ands, or buts. He has 20 wounds on a 3-up save, and can dish out a ton of anti-hero and anti-monster attacks. He also has an 8-inch range shooting attack from his Cabbage Dragon, plus he has a variety of buffs and debuffs that he can do. If you field him, I suggest you put him into the biggest threats on the table, and that's where he'll shine. The Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. He has 18 wounds on a 3-up save, has the same amount of attacks as Gordrakk, but all his attacks are anti-infantry. He also has the same 8-inch range shooting attack. He trades most of his buffs and debuffs for damage on the charge, with the additional effect to move through an enemy unit. Take him if you need some extra anti-infantry magic. Not little magic, just, you know. The Tusk Boss on Maw Grunta. This is your HQ option for the Big Pig, Big Pig! It has 14 wounds and a 3-up save, 20-ish attacks from all its weapon profiles, and gains momentum through running and charging. The momentum buffs the big pig's tusk attacks, and he also gives momentum bonuses to other big pigs. The Mega Boss. He has 8 wounds and a 3-up save, has 8 2-wound attacks, and gets more attacks each time he damages stuff to a maximum of 3 extra attacks. A unit of brutes can also fight immediately after him, and they get 1 extra bonus attack from this. The War Chanter is a 6-wound, 4-up save priest. He gains extra prayer points for beating stuff to death, which is my kind of religious leader. The Weirdnod Shaman is a 6-wound, 6-up save wizard. He gets 1 spell and can get a buff to casting if he's near 10 or more boys. He also has a range attack where he just pukes on you. The Ardboy Big Boss is a 6-wound, 3-up save melee character. He has a decent amount of 2-wound attacks. He gives bonuses to the Ardboy's Shield Bash ability and gives them 3 extra dice when rallying as well. Zogrot, Anvil Smasher, and Clonk the Anvil Squig. Your second named hero, who has 7 wounds and a 3+ save. He has 2 weapon options, one of which permanently turns off enemy ward saves. The other gives buffs to forging rolls. His forging ability gives him crit mortals on all weapons on a 4+. His second weapon option buffs this to a 3+. Clonk the Squig lets you reroll this once per turn, and he goes away if you roll a save roll of 1. Ardboys are a 2-wound, 3-up save infantry. They have anti-charge rend bonuses, and an additional ability that they can dish out mortal wounds on a 6+. Brutes are a 3-up save, 3-up wound infantry. They have a great amount of anti-infantry 2 and 3 wound attacks, and when enemy 1 and 2 wound infantry try to contest objectives near them, they literally don't. The brutes bully them into not wanting to do that. Brute Ragers are a 3-wound, 5-up save anti-monster unit. They have run and charge, and get a strike first ability on the charge. Weird Brute Rekkas are the same as the Brute Ragers, but they trade a couple things around. They have no strike first, as they get a 5-up ward save, and they trade their anti-monster attacks for more, less powerful anti-infantry attacks. Also, they have some pretty cool skull masks, not gonna lie. Gorkrunches are a 5-wound, 3-up save pig unit. They have anti-cavalry rend on their main weapons and extra damage, and they dish out mortal wounds on the charge as well. They also rock a 9-inch move. Maw Crushers are 12-wound, 3-up save big pigs! Both pigs dish out a decent number of attacks, and both gain momentum like the boss. The Hack and Crew Pig gets the boss's move through combat abilities, and the baseline piggy gets a strike last ability on a roll of 5+ minus momentum. The Boss Rock Tower is a 12-wound, 4-up save terrain piece. Foot heroes chill on this terrain piece and can send out 3 different effects 18 inches away. These 3 effects all affect the enemy and are -3 to control score, -1 from casting, and -1 from the amount of dice rolled when charging. The Foot of Gork is a mortal wound and charge debuff endless spell. On a 2+, you dish out D3 mortal wounds, and the enemy units that were affected by this lose out on one of their charging dice till the next turn. The Gork Roara is a melee endless spell that can both hurt you and buff your guys for additional charge range. The Mork Spit Marsh is a debuff endless spell that lowers your opponent's control score and prevents them from running if they're within 6 inches of it. Well, that's all. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could please like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.